How do you turn your high ticket message into marketing strategies that actually make you sales? This is probably one of the most asked questions that I get, and I want to really dive deep into explaining to you what it is that we do with all of this messaging stuff that we talk about week after week, and how do we actually implement this into my business and how I help my clients implement it into their businesses as well, so that you can do the same. Implement all of these marketing pieces or messaging pieces into your marketing strategies because, if you're like me, I spent years thinking that success was something that I could build outside of myself. Meaning, I felt like, well, if I just get my marketing funnel right, like if I get my webinar funnel to be optimized and get the right amount of people watching the right amount of time of the webinar, and then I tweak copy here and I tweak things there, and I get just enough calls booked, well, then I will be able to build this massive, like, $1 billion success or whatever it was. And I kept on always looking outside of myself for the ways in which I could optimize my marketing or what other marketing strategies that I could implement. And at the end of the day, I kept on coming across like the same wall. The same exact situation. My conversions rate was roughly the same. The amount of money that I made every month was monthly the same. And I felt really frustrated because I felt like, I knew that I was good. I knew that I was getting clients results. I knew that the work that I was doing was really transformational. So why was it so hard for more people to see it? And I thought that all that I needed was more eyes. Like, I'm sure that you might feel the same sometimes. This idea of like, well, maybe if I go viral, or maybe if I just spent a lot of money on ads this month, or I don't know, something happens where I can get in front of more and more people, the results are going to be different. But when your marketing message is broken, you're not going to get results no matter how many eyes you're going to get on it. It's going to become more and more expensive for you to be able to scale. Unfortunately, I learned that the hard way. So what I want to talk about today is kind of how we approach messaging and how we take that message into our marketing strategy, right? Because what I eventually came to realize was that the only way for me to actually get true results and growth in my business and sustainability, consistency, stability, which is a big one, was through an internal process. And that process, yes, was very much related to mindset and a lot of I don't even want to call it mindset, actually. It was more of, let's call it energy work. I don't even have an actual word for it, but it was really about my state of being, my identity, how I was showing up every single day in my life, not even in my business, just in my life, like who I am when things are not going well. But that's a whole other topic. I will definitely do another episode on this. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to hear, or you want to hear me talk about the internal work, which is crucial. But when I mean the internal part, also, I mean the internal message. Like, what is it that I really want to say? What is it that I stand for? What is the thing that I want to be known for? And how do I turn my message into something that really, really matters to me and to my audience and, to my clients? How do I really convey that message powerfully? And when I shifted out of looking for this outside funnel or little magic wand strategy that I had yet to discover, and I started looking internally to really figure out, well, what is that thing that I want to say? That's when I started getting really great results and a lot of growth and consistency in our business. I am extremely in a grateful place right now because we're in a place where we're constantly making at least $40K per month in our business. And that is amazing. Starting the month, knowing that you have recurring revenue coming in, knowing that you have new clients coming in, that you have a system in place that are bringing you people. But what I want you to understand is that it wasn't like, oh, I finally found the system. It was more like I finally found myself. I finally figured out what it is that I wanted to say and how to say this in a way that felt truly authentic and truly, compelling enough for the right people, right? Not compelling for everybody that will never buy from me, but compelling enough for the right people. So the way that this works for me is that there are certain elements in terms of messaging that I think are really fundamental for me to have in place to then be able to implement those in my marketing. I'll kind of break them down for you. I do have a brand new secret podcast called The Need to Have Formula, where I go really deep into explaining this whole system in its entirety and the whole process to be able to turn your offer from a nice to have to a need to have. Go to fabipaolini.com/formula formula to find it, or just look for the comments below or the description below this episode so that you can find the direct link to it and be able to access it, watch it, listen to it on the go, however you want. That being said, there's a few different elements that for me are a big part of what I feel like needs to be in place before you move into marketing. So I'm going to walk you through like what those elements are. And then I'm going to tell you how I take those elements and use them in my own marketing in different ways in which I have implemented these over the years and which ones have worked really well for me as well. So for me, there are a few fundamental things. The first thing has to do with your audience. And I talked about this in the previous episode when I talked about how to get your audience to sell themselves into your offer. I gave some details around this. I also go in much more depth into audience in the Ready to Invest Clients video. You can find that at readytoinvestclients.com, by the way. But essentially, really understanding who are your buyers and having a lot of clarity around how the buyer experiences the problem personally. So for me, I feel like that is a fundamental piece that you really need to figure out so that you can actually succeed with any marketing strategy. Like the more that you understand your audience's level of awareness of the problem, how they view the problem versus how you view the problem. It's like, how are they experiencing the problem? But more specifically, how is the actual buyer experiencing the problem? Not just anybody, but how is the actual buyer experiencing that problem? What does that problem look like for them? So that is one of the core pieces that I feel needs to be really clearly defined by you so that you can then implement that into your marketing, because when you are able to incorporate that into your marketing strategy, it's going to resonate with the right people. It's that simple, right? The second thing for me has to do with your audience's root cause of the problem. And so one of the things that I really like to do is try to find a way to really bridge the gap between your audience's level of awareness of the problem and your level of awareness. In other words, like, how does your audience view the problem? How do you view the problem? And how do you communicate that? Like, how do you close the gap between those things where you're sharing with them or showing them what the root cause of the problem is in a way that they would say, oh my gosh, that is 100% me. I can relate to this. I never thought of that before. I had never seen that before. So for me, root cause work is one of the most important parts of getting clarity in your message. For me, root cause is one piece of what I call the angle of mastery. I'll explain a little bit more of that in a second. But it's really understanding, like, how do you view the problem in a way that your audience has never heard before? And how do you explain the root cause of the problem in a way that would make them feel like, what? I never thought of that before. We're shifting their beliefs around what the true problem is. So that's the second element. The third element is the actual global angle of mastery, which is essentially your zone of genius, your unique mechanism, your unique way of looking at the problem and the solution actually, and how that solution is the antidote to the root cause of the problem. So for me, this is one of those elements, again, that is really important because it's what really ultimately differentiates you from the thousands or even millions of coaches in your niche, in your industry right now. So it's really being able to convey in a very clear way what makes your process different. Not just saying, I have a framework, that's what makes me different, or I'm going to help you through a unique process that is really in depth and where we're going to assess different elements to ensure success. That does not tell me anything. That is what most people are saying. It's really being able to communicate and almost prove to your audience that your solution is actually the thing that's going to solve the problem for your audience. So once we have those three core elements, your audience's problem, the root cause of the problem, and your angle of mastery, then that's what you can go ahead and implement into marketing. So then let's talk about marketing and let's talk about what are the things that we can take into account. So what I've learned over the years is that for high ticket coaching, at least services, I would also argue that this might be very true for every price point, but specifically for high ticket coaching, more video is going to be more effective. So from my personal experience, I have done a lot of different things, from quiz funnels and email courses and PDFs and video series and live challenges and live webinars and automated webinars and my podcast. Like, there's a lot of different things. I think that in truth, the more that we can get in front of our audience and really show them our energy and who we are and what we stand for and what we believe in and like how we coach and who we are as people, the more effective our marketing strategies are going to be. So for me, what I do is I will take those three elements: my audience's problem, the root cause of the problem, and my angle of mastery, my unique way of solving the problem. And I will literally structure every piece of content that I create, whether we're talking about a webinar or whether we're talking about a post on Facebook or an email or whatever it is, following that exact system. In fact, in this episode, I have basically done the same. If you go back and re-listen to the beginning, you're going to notice that I have done these three things. Obviously, I actually go a little bit more into more details of like what's included in that formula, and there's other pieces that are involved, which I'm not going to necessarily go into in this episode. However, what I will do then is I will make sure that those three core elements are in everything that I create in order for me to be able to build demand. So currently in my business, I have several funnels in place or several strategies in place that are all end up leading people almost to the same place, because I do have different offers and different ways of working with me right now. But my core strategy right now is my 20-minute demand creating webinar, right? So essentially it is a 20-minute automated video, which is the readytoinvestclients.com. That's where you would find it, where I go into this exact process, basically my audience's problem, the root cause of their problem, my angle of mastery. Like, that is my process. And I reveal that throughout my 20-minute video, right? And then I also right now have, for example, I have a PDF, and my PDF it goes through that process, but it goes more in depth into explain. It's like a meta sort of thing, in the sense of like, it's a little bit of inception. I'm explaining the process while I'm showing you the process. It's kind of interesting to watch, but I have a PDF that also walks you through like how to create content, what type of content to create, and all these things. And that is more meant for me to be able to grow my email list and get more people in. And it's just one of those strategies that I love using as well. The other thing that I'm doing right now, for example, is my secret podcast, the Need to Have formula, where literally I'm not only, once again, walking you through my process, but I am doing the process in the process. So again, it's like another one of those inception pieces. And this is, a 6-episode podcast, short episodes where I go into, again, what is my audience's problem? What is the root cause of their problem? What is my angle of mastery? And throughout everything that I do, that is basically what I'm repeating. My intention with every single one of the pieces of the strategies that I follow in my own business is to build demand, is to really create a sense of, I need this for my audience. So I will be constantly looking at different ways in which the problem shows up for my audience and different ways of explaining it, different ways of communicating it so that it feels more compelling. And eventually, for some people, it can be immediately. For other people, it can be over a series of episodes, of emails, of videos, or years, or sometimes days, sometimes it's minutes almost, but sometimes it can be years. They are nurtured enough to say, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is exactly what I need. How do I move forward to work with you? But everything that I'm doing is extremely intentional to to basically nurture my audience, to create demand and create a need. And everything that I'm doing, I'm just doing following that formula and following and making sure that those three elements, audience's problem, root cause of their problem, angle of mastery, are very clearly communicated. And every time I share these things, I get better at them. I get better at explaining them. I get better at conveying them. I get better at using examples. And so therefore, all of it just keeps on improving. Obviously, I've done other things in the past. I've done live events, live 90-minute workshops, 3-day events, 5-day events. I've done shorter video series. There's a lot of different strategies and things that I've implemented over the years to be able to really structure this. But at the end of the day, what I'm doing is focusing on my message and making sure that the core elements are in place so that I'm able to build that demand. Obviously, you can see me implement this everywhere. everywhere if you're following me everywhere. And if you want my help to see how you're communicating your value and how your message is coming through, what I want you to do is book a free 15-minute brand message assessment with me. You'll find that at brandmessagesession.com. And basically what we will do, or what I will do, is I will take a look at your current message, your marketing, what you're doing, and try to help you really determine those three elements. Like, who is your audience? What is your audience's problem? How do we make sure that we speak to buyers? How do we convey your angle of mastery in a way that really makes you stand out from everybody else? So if you want to do that, make sure that you click on brandmessagesession.com or find the link in the description of this episode. And just make sure that you subscribe. You follow me everywhere as Fabi Paolini. You can follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. Find me on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, all the different places at Fabi Paolini, because I'm going to go deeper into some of these topics. I really want to share with you a lot of the identity shifts, which for me is one of the most important topics as well. Let me know below what else you want me to talk about, and I'll see you in another episode. Bye.